Hey Elena, alright, so here's your past life spread. So what we're going to do is look at where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and the feeling card involved, another important day, the death, and the lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout. So basically what happens is I'm going to get images and impressions that I'm going to relay to you. And your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can, based on what we go over here and your current life. And I'll try to help however I can. All right? So let's start. So where we're going here is the island card. So the island card does not necessarily mean like Hawaii or Fiji or anything like that. I mean, it could, but it can also mean like Australia or certain countries that, to me, because I'm using my filter, how I see islands, and that can be the UK or, you know, like that kind of thing. So what's coming through for me when I laid it out might not actually be like a literal island, but what came through was like it could be, okay, so Norway or like the Scandinavian countries come through, even though they're not technically islands, I don't think, because they're all connected. Or we're looking somewhere near that, but we're not looking, it doesn't feel UK. I feel like we're looking at a place where it's mostly winter. I feel like, or not mostly winter, but mostly snow. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of ice, a lot. So this could also possibly, it kind of can also be Greenland, because it's kind of like in that hemisphere, you know, just like north, but it feels more like Scandinavian and up towards, I mean, it's not like Arctic quite, but it's really severe like ice and snow kind of thing, and it feels north. So keep that in mind. And so for example, the kind of connections you could be making already could be, one, are you a snow person? Do you love the look of snow? If you see photos of it or you spend time in it, do you love snow? It could be the activities of snow. It literally could be looking at a picture, or like, what's it called? Like seeing movies and you love the Christmas movies where it's like snowing. Or how you can connect is completely opposite, because when our soul experiences one thing, it can come back wanting to experience another. So because it was in that extremity, you could be someone that doesn't like the idea of being somewhere cold or icy or snow or anything like that. You could be someone that loves the warm, you know, balmy weather. So keep that in mind as far as how that might connect with you in any way. Also the idea of visiting or seeing pictures of or hearing about like Norway or the Scandinavia countries, those areas. If you've seen, you know, any photos, we're looking for something that triggers you. So keep that in mind as well if that's the case. And if not, that's fine. So what you do with the majority of your time, the card that comes through here, let's see if you can see that guy. Yeah, that's the leadership card. Okay, so the leadership card, it can mean a few things. It can mean, you know, like management, or it can mean literally like the captain of a ship or a president or royal something. And so what I feel like we're looking at here is, in this cold wintry place, it feels like we're looking at a community of people, a small community. I guess they would be considered like a tribe, but I don't want to say tribe. I want to say small community, but it could be tribe. It's just that when I think of tribe, I think of more like primitive cultures, but that's not necessarily what we're looking at here, because I feel like we're looking at like what we would maybe see as like like Inuits, kind of like just people who, like a small community that lives and thrives in this weather, this very cold, icy weather. Like they just know how to do it. And I feel like I don't feel like you are I don't think we're looking at you right now where you're like the chief of the tribe or community or the head of the community. It feels like you are like the one down from it. And I feel like so basically it feels like we're looking at like the son of the chief of this tribal-ish community thing, okay? So I also feel like, again, son, it feels like a male life we're looking at, which usually when we're looking at, you know, certain genders or whatever, it may connect with you in a way where it might indicate you having feeling more of that kind of energy in your life. Like if you're a woman, you would feel like you have some masculine energy, and that does not mean manly. It means like more like, what's the word, like forward or like extroverted, or not so much extroverted, but like what am I looking for? Like not aggressive, but you know, just like more like assertive. That's a good word. Okay. So you might find it more assertive, or maybe you've shown like back in the day or even today, more of a tomboy, that kind of thing. So keep that in mind as well. Also, when we're looking at opposite genders, there's also what comes up that you might connect with is a fluidity of sexuality, like seeing it on a spectrum kind of thing, where you're not just like completely this way and none of that, you know, like straight, gay, this, that. You might see sexuality as like a fluid spectrum. So keep that in mind as well, if that speaks to you, those kinds of energies. Otherwise, it could also mean a nice balance of energy. So there's all these different ways you can be connecting with just that aspect of looking at a male life being a female, if that makes sense. So we're looking at the son of this chief, and that's what it's feeling like, is like the son of a chief. And the leadership role comes in because already just from a young age, you're kind of seeing how it's going to be for you, and also having to have the burden of responsibility, but also, you know, recognizing that you can't see it as a burden. You have to like kind of embrace it because this is your life. So that might connect with you in that in your current life, you find that you're very easy to embrace responsibility, and like seeing the silver lining in things. You might be someone that just is maybe like a tad optimistic when it comes to certain things that other people might just be like, ugh. You might just be like, all right, this is what we got to do. Let's get it done. That kind of attitude. And that would stem from here, the son of a chief, someone who's being groomed to kind of lead people. So this also means that you're being taught many, many skills, and you're very adept at it. This isn't someone who's bumbling and fumbling their way through things. So in your current life, you might be someone that is a good multitasker, and you might be interested in many different things in your life. You might just find that you just enjoy learning about a lot of different stuff. And I mean, that may even go into like, you might find it interesting to learn about like survival, like natural survival, like how people would survive out if they, you know, were camping, I guess is the best analogy, or that kind of thing. Not necessarily, but if that does strike a fancy with you, it would connect in this way. But otherwise, it's more about talking like multitasking and just embracing a lot of different things, being entertained, or what is it called? Just interested in many different things. So keep that in mind. At the same time, what it can also mean is because of what we're looking at here, your soul could have decided to come back and want to experience a life of ease and just like go with the flow, not really doing too much, just kind of wanting to meander through life, that kind of thing, because of this life that was full of responsibility and full of doing. There was not a lot of downtime for this person, even though the existence, there wasn't a lot of downtime because the kind of living situation required like constant survival, always like making sure there's enough food and water and shelter and this and that. But also it's besides the survival thing, it's not that it was like super hectic. It's just that there was a lot to do. So again, you might be able to handle a lot. Okay, so there was something else that came through. Oh, the time. Okay, so what's interesting about this is, as far as the time period goes, it feels like this is a place that would not have become modern at the same time as the rest of the world. It just feels like they would probably be, just like kind of holding on to traditions, because tradition means survival for these people. So you might be someone who is actually liking to rebel against tradition. So let's say you chose to come into a traditional family, you might find that you're the black sheep, or your soul may have chosen to incarnate into a family that is not so traditional or that embraces change easily, so as to help you embrace change and do things a little differently or non-traditionally. Whatever the case is, that's how it may connect with you, is that it's not that you're like a rebel, it's just that you find that you just might not want to be doing the traditional thing this time around because it's very traditional here. So let's go to the first important day. So here we have graduation. So the graduation card, it doesn't necessarily mean like school graduation, and it can, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It can mean like graduation internally, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. There's all kinds of graduations that can be happening. So I'm just saying what's happening here, and the relationship involved with this graduation is the family. And then the feelings involved is grateful. So what I feel is happening is we are seeing a changeover in the leadership roles, because what we're seeing is a few years later, we're seeing this young man growing into this strong, grown man. And we're seeing the father stepping down, not dying, but stepping down as the son starts to, his tasks start to overtake his father's tasks. So, like we were seeing the, father leading at first, and then the son learning, and then the father and son kind of working side by side, like a 50-50, and then we see a 60-40 and a 70-30. So at this point, we're seeing the father kind of step into his role as an elder of the tribe, and you taking over as the leader, like the next leader, youthful, like I see, this, we're talking like late 20s, early 30s is what it looks and feels like. Yeah, so we're seeing a graduation not only of you, but also your family. Like it's your whole family shifting into this next mode of existence. And this feeling of gratitude just for the experience of being able to kind of be there and see it on a soul level. So how that might connect with you could be you may have like an appreciation for the circle and cycle of life and watching it and seeing it. You might be someone that just, you might have like a deep love for the elderly, or you might be someone that's able to step back and witness other people, like other families, and see this change and the shift. Like you might be someone that's quite nostalgic, is I guess what I'm saying. It feels like a feeling of nostalgia, of appreciating, looking back and seeing how you've grown, how the people around you have grown and changed, how you've developed. And if anything, this would be coming up in order to give you a message of keep doing that if you already do, but if you don't already do that, that would be kind of a key way for you to experience development and growth on a soul level. And the gratitude card comes up a lot because that is the key, is being in a state of gratitude and appreciation is so like helpful. It's almost like a little boost. It's like a boost for your soul. Like it puts you in a state of mind or a state of being that does help you develop. It's a kind of a state of grace. And I feel like that's why it would be coming up, because if it's something you already do, keep it up. If it's something you haven't thought about, try it, or try it more. Whatever you do, like try to see the little things in life that you can be grateful for, and the more you do that, the more you're going to see things change and things will open up and there'll be new things developing. It's an interesting concept to play with, is the state of gratitude. So I feel like that's why this is coming through. Also, what this could be speaking to is actually the roles that are played in your family. So this can also mean that if you were born into a traditional family, you might not agree with roles that are played. Like, for example, if the oldest sibling has that oldest sibling complex, or you know what I mean, how they say, it's like the younger sibling is this, and the middle, you might not like the roles that are assigned to you or assigned to the people in general. Like, you might find that you may be more mentally mature than your parents. And that might be confusing, because there comes a time when things shift and change like that. And I feel like this is just like showing you, letting you know that you've already experienced such traditional roles that it's okay now that if you're not experiencing that, or if you're noticing that roles don't exactly line up how they're supposed to traditionally, that it's okay, and for you to just pursue being yourself and pursue your path and what feels right to you, and that you don't necessarily have to play into the roles that other people expect you to play into. All right? So if that speaks to you, great. And if not, that's fine. It just feels like that's what's coming through as well. So the next important day. Here we have the Wowzer card, and the Wowzer card I love because this usually means like something big is happening. There's a big shift happening in your life, and it's usually like a kind of like an eye opener. And the relationship involved is the Spouse card. So there we go, the Spouse card. And here we have the Betrayed card. So I'm just seeing what comes through with that, because at this time we are seeing a family, for your family, like you have a family. You've taken a partner, a wife, and I feel like there may be a child involved or two. It feels like there is a family unit we're looking at here, so I'm just trying to see what's happening with this. So what it's feeling like is it's not like, oh, my spouse betrayed me, like there's something like that. It's almost like I feel like we are seeing the loss of your partner, and there's a betrayal feeling in the nature of things. So it feels like we're looking at your partner dying of something, almost like an internal, like a genetic internal disease or like illness, or it doesn't feel like she gets sick and dies. It feels like she dies of something, like maybe it's even like a heart defect or something. And you're left with children, and you're also leading this community, and there's this sense of betrayal, almost like a betrayal where it hits you and your faith is tested. That's what it feels like. It feels like a testing of your faith, and you have to rely on the traditions of your community and also those around you to help lift you up, and it's almost like you can't do anything else. Like there's no choice, because you have children relying on you, you have a community relying on you, and this is the kind of setback that you're not prepared for, but it's also the kind of setback that you are prepared for, in a sense where you know your responsibilities, you know what you have to do, and you have to do them. So it's like, so there's this sense of having to bury this emotion that you don't know what to do with really deep down. And it's the kind of thing where it's almost like you don't know how to resolve it, and you don't know what to do with it, but you have to keep going on. So we're seeing this testing of faith that doesn't get resolved, and we see this man going through the motions for a long time. And I feel like he eventually, there's something about taking another partner in the years to come, but there's also a sense of being unresolved with these feelings of his past partner. And so it's almost like there's this, like, whatever they worship, and it feels like, when I say like he's betrayed by the nature of things, is because it feels like they are a nature worshipping culture. And it's almost like there's a misunderstanding of, like, he can't quite grasp or understand what he should be learning from the loss of a partner like that, because everything had been going so smoothly in his life that this kind of unrest is so unusual, because the kind of unrest that he usually has to deal with, or has had to deal with, has to do with like helping other people having problems. The unrest, like the feeling of unrest of being a leader and people looking to him, or his father and him, and then they help them. So he's seen other people go through things, but he hasn't gone through things himself. So this is a very confusing moment for him. So I feel like, if anything, where this may connect with you is when if your own faith has been tested in this way, and it could be with relationship. It could be, it doesn't mean someone has had to die, and it could be with a loss. Maybe you have gone through a loss. It could be also though like a loss of relationship, or like where something happens that you don't see coming, like just something really unexpected happening to you. And if this is the case, or if when things happen to you and you don't see them coming, instead of being emotional and being articulating the emotion, getting it out, venting, crying, blah, 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 you might be someone that buries the feelings down, 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 or bottles them up until you might, have a one day, like an explosion one day, or you just keep burying them down. Like the extreme. It's either the extreme, you either bottle them up until it explodes, or you just bury it down and you don't confront them. And in that way, I feel like if that's the case, this would be coming through to tell you that it's time to resolve things for yourself. It doesn't mean you have to confront anyone. It doesn't mean you have to see a therapist if you need to talk to somebody, but you at least need to kind of talk to yourself and be honest with yourself and confront your feelings and kind of lay them out for yourself and be honest and be like, okay, this is unresolved. I need to process. This is being tested right now. My feelings here are really uncertain. What can I do to help stabilize these feelings? That's what it feels like, is that like if you're feeling unstable with certain things, or certain circumstances going on right now, or in the past, or coming up, however it may be, when you feel unstable, don't bury it down and ignore it. Rather, acknowledge it. It's about like acknowledging these really weird, possibly icky feelings, but acknowledging them and confronting them and processing them, because by not doing that, it's gonna staunch your growth. It's gonna or stunt your growth in some way, because you're not fully going through yourself and smoothing things out that need smoothing. I guess that what they like to call this is shadow work. So look that up and make sure you're doing your shadow work. It's not something to be feared. It's something to be approached and confronted and acknowledged and worked through. And once you get through that, then that's really good. That's really the best thing you could be doing for yourself. So keep that in mind as well. But I do have to say, on the other hand, because of this person burying their feelings, it could be that you've come back in this life as someone who is just super uber emotional and really feels everything. In fact, you could have come back in this life as an empath, not only feeling everything you feel, but feeling everything everyone else feels and soaking up those feelings as well. You see? So you can be coming back as two kind of opposite ways. So see which way connects with you, if either one. Okay? Keep that in mind as well. So, let's go to the death card, and here we have an accident. So I'm going to see what's going on, but I can tell you it happens much later in life. In fact, your age might have something to do with it. Do know your father at least lives a very long time, but we see you approaching. It's almost like you're around the same age as him. I'm like a very old man. It's almost like you don't realize your limitations anymore because you really had no limitations as far as your strength, mentally, physically, like you're a very strong person, and that might connect with you in your current life. You might be a very strong person, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, that kind of thing. But we're seeing you doing your daily things. You're still, it's like, you did have children, so you've handed the reins over, so to speak, but you're still very active in the community and leading, and they still come to you for help and advice. You're you're more active than your father was. In that way, you're not so traditional even here, because tradition is you join the elderlies, you hand the reins over, you enjoy your elderly time, or whatever it is here is what it feels like. But even so, it's like you cannot give it up. And that is what leads to the death. I'm trying to see what it is, but I feel like you're just doing a task, and in doing the task, you just there's something that you miss. It's like you're old, and it slips your mind and something happens. I'm just trying to see what this is, because you're outside. It's like you're outside. It brings you to your knees. Something like, I think you pull your back out. So I feel like what's happening is you pull your back out. And after that, it's like just a kind of slow decline. So it's almost like that's not the day you die, but this is the day where your decline into death happens. And it's not like uber painful, it's just that it's like tiring and it takes a while and it's kind of just prolonged. So that's, like unfortunate, but it's again, it's not like a super painful thing, it's more like a tiring out kind of thing. But we do see your back going out. So if you have back problems in this life, if you find that your lower back hurts, any part of your back hurts, you hold all your stress in your back, if you if your muscles get knotted easily, anything like that. There's also shortness of breath. If you experience shortness of breath, breathing problems, keep that in mind as well. Also, if you get dizzy, if you're someone that has like vertigo, or you get a little dizzy, that might stem from here as well. So just keep that in mind. And one more thing might be fatigue. Fatigue that you can't explain, that kind of thing. Like if you get tired easily, or if you get tired during the day, or that kind of thing, is just like where you can't explain it. It would come from here. It could stem from here. So keep that in mind. Now the lesson card here is Enlightenment. And this is a great card. I love this card. And you can see how the enlightenment occurred. It was like nonstop for you. It started at birth, and you just learned all your lessons, literally and figuratively. You really took all the responsibility on very well. You were good at what you did. You were also a very introspective person. Like, you understood people very much, and you loved people. There's a warmth to this person, a warmth that he learned also from his father. Like, this whole community, there's a warmth to this community, and that helped with the development. And that might even stem into your life today. You might be a very warm person, people might just like being around you. You might just give off a warmth, if anyone's ever told you that before. It could be explained as being friendly or being open. Some people, you might be someone people share things with. So that could come from this as well. We're looking at a very warm person who loved people, very open, very understanding. So very good leader in that way, where there wasn't a lot of judgment. And that's very good, and that's something that you can also tap into. You might be someone who doesn't judge people, but if you find yourself judging people, just remember this person he's very non-judgmental, very understanding, and that's going to open doors for you as far as your own growth goes. Just because judgment is kind of like puts obstacles up when you're trying to develop. So to become non-judgmental and to kind of step back and see the bigger picture, like this leader does, like good leaders do, stepping back, seeing the bigger picture, that's where we see a lot of enlightenment. And then here, even though we see him burying the feelings deep down, what we don't see is him self-hating or being continuing to be frustrated. He doesn't continue this confusion, frustration moment. He doesn't make it into something and blow it up and hang up, he doesn't stay hung up on it. He does learn to move on, even though he does bury his feelings, not the greatest thing to do. He doesn't get hung up, and that's important, being able to move on and put things in the past. And I feel like that's actually something that would be coming through for you, is as you develop, as you walk down your path, as you're growing, learning very much to keep the past in the past, and also to take the moments that are happening, allowing them to be filed away into the past, so you can keep present, staying present in the moment, just like this person, because he did. as a leader, you have to be present in every moment because he's helping so many people all at once. So this person is very present. That is also another key. Just like gratitude, being present is another key. And I feel like that's what this is all about, actually, is giving you keys to enlightenment, giving you keys to walking your path to develop, to grow, to your gifts, to enlightenment. Already we see gratitude and we see being present in the present moment. Those are very big things. So keep that in mind. And there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections. And thanks for letting me read you.